What if I told you the Vikings could sit inside their homes during Arctic winters, snow piled against the walls, icy winds screaming outside, and yet feel steady warmth without constantly feeding a fire? No roaring hearth, no endless logs, no fuel burning as we understand it today. This is not legend, and it is not romantic exaggeration. Archaeology, reconstructed longhouses, and historical accounts all point to the same truth. Viking warmth came from structure, placement, and understanding heat itself. If you stay with me for the next minute, you'll see why modern houses lose heat faster than Viking homes, and how their methods can still be applied today in cabins, off-grid homes, or even modern buildings. The Vikings did not heat their homes the way we do. They trapped warmth, recycled it, and refused to let it escape. Once you understand that principle, everything else makes sense. Viking homes were designed to trap heat before it ever had a chance to escape. The Viking longhouse was not built tall, airy, or exposed. It was built low, heavy, and sealed against the landscape. Walls were often made from thick layers of turf stacked over stone or timber frames. Turf is not decoration. Turf is compressed soil and grass, and soil is one of the best natural insulators available. In winter, those walls froze solid, turning into an insulating shell that locked warmth inside. The roof followed the same logic. Heavy sod roofs pressed down over wooden beams, sealing cracks and stopping air movement. Heat loss through convection was almost non-existent. Modern tests on reconstructed Viking houses show that once internal warmth built up, temperatures stayed stable for hours, even after fires died down. You can apply this today by thinking less about heaters and more about mass. Earth berms against walls, green roofs, thick plaster layers, or even interior clay walls dramatically slow heat loss. The Vikings understood that insulation is more powerful than heat generation. The placement of Viking homes turned the landscape itself into a heat source. Viking homes were not dropped randomly onto land. They were set into slopes, ridges, or shallow depressions. This mattered. Earth maintains a stable temperature year-round just below the surface. By partially sinking their homes into the ground or banking soil against exterior walls, Vikings reduced exposure to cold air while borrowing warmth from the earth itself. This is passive geothermal heating, long before the term existed. Wind exposure was minimized. Openings were placed away from prevailing winds. Entrances were narrow and sometimes angled, forcing cold air to slow before entering living space. A modern application is straightforward. Even a partial earth berm on the north-facing side of a structure can reduce heat loss dramatically. Survival shelters, root cellar homes, and off-grid cabins use this same logic today, often unknowingly repeating Viking practice. The central hearth was not a heater, but a thermal charger. Contrary to popular belief, the Viking hearth was not meant to blaze all day. Fires consumed valuable fuel. Instead, the hearth was used strategically. Heat was allowed to soak into surrounding stone, clay floors, benches, and wall bases. These materials absorbed warmth and released it slowly over time, long after flames were gone. This is thermal mass heating, and the Vikings mastered it. Stone-lined hearths, packed earth floors, and raised sleeping platforms near walls all acted as heat reservoirs. Sleeping areas were placed where stored heat lingered longest. You can replicate this by using masonry stoves, thick tile floors, or even stone walls near modern heat sources. One short burn can warm mass that radiates heat all night without additional fuel. Body heat and livestock were intentionally integrated into the heating system. This part makes modern readers uncomfortable, but it worked. People and animals produce heat continuously. Vikings housed livestock in attached or adjacent sections of the longhouse during winter. Their body warmth rose into living areas, adding steady background heat. Human body heat also mattered. Sleeping arrangements were communal, not for social reasons alone, but thermal efficiency. Warmth pooled. Heat loss was reduced. Wool clothing, layered bedding, and animal hides trapped this shared warmth. In survival situations today, shared sleeping spaces, insulated animal shelters attached to human dwellings, and heat zoning inside structures follow the same logic. The Vikings wasted nothing, including warmth. Smoke management doubled as insulation and preservation. Viking homes were, pretty smoky, but this was actually intentional. Smoke filled the upper space beneath the roof, creating an insulating layer that, reduced heat escape. At the same time, it preserved wooden beams and dried the interior, which helped prevent rot in those damp climates. Smoke holes were small and adjustable. Heat stayed in, and moisture left slowly. This balance kept interiors warmer and structures durable. In modern off-grid designs, controlled ventilation paired with airtight construction achieves the same effect without smoke. The principle remains unchanged. The real Viking secret was refusing to fight nature and instead working with it. Vikings did not try to overpower winter. Instead, they accepted cold and designed around it. They built homes that behaved like living systems, storing heat, blocking wind, and recycling every source of warmth available. Their success was not technology, it was understanding. If you apply even part of this knowledge today, thicker walls, thermal mass, earth sheltering, reduced air leaks, strategic layout, you reduce dependence on fuel immediately. This is why Viking techniques still influence modern passive house design, survival shelters, and experimental archaeology. Why this ancient knowledge still matters today. Fuel costs rise. Power grids fail. Cold kills more people than heat worldwide. The Viking approach offers a blueprint for resilience that does not depend on constant consumption. It is quiet, efficient, and proven by centuries of survival in brutal climates. This is not nostalgia, it is tested human engineering. If this deep dive into ancient practical knowledge is the kind of content you value, make sure you subscribe to Ancient Know-How. Share this with anyone interested in history, survival, or building smarter rather than harder. These lessons survived 1,000 winters. They deserve to survive another 1,000 years through you.